Okay, so blessed day to everyone. I apologize for a delay by reason that I'm sick and even not okay right now, but I'm about to be healed. Okay, so you may observe that there are a lot of discussions on the corrections. Well, I presume also that you have already discussed this in your subject Introduction to Criminology, and I presume that you learn a lot because what I made is a supplementary of the discussion so that you will know exactly and you will learn thoroughly about the subject matter because you will learn soon those topics when you enrolled correctional administration, both the institutional correction, non-institutional correction, and even also when you enroll the therapeutic subject, which is a new subject for the entire discipline BS Criminology in pursuant to SIM of 5 series of 2018. So let us now proceed for the last pillar of the Philippine criminal justice system, which is the community. So when you serve your sentence or when you already serve your sentence, you will back to the community. Or when you are granted with pardon, parole, and probation, you will go back to the community. Well, exceptional to the parole and probation because when you made or when you violated such policies or terms and conditions thereof, you will be obliged to go back behind bars. On the other hand, when you serve already your sentence, you will go back to the community and you will be living the same as those people who were not sentenced to prison. Okay? So, private groups and public entities who, when performing or are involved in related criminal justice activities, become a part of the system. Thus, prisoners helping to rehabilitate themselves are involved in the criminal justice system. In the same manner, a lawmaking body becomes part of the system. At this time, it is engaged in the process of enacting a proposed law intended to improve law enforcement or correctional methods. Let me point this also. The reason why we have this rehabilitation, if you go back, if you will browse your notes also on those rehabilitation programs, recreational programs, educational programs, those are programs that will help those um, prisoners to be prepared once they go back to the community. For example, before you were in prison, you don't have yet the skills, but when you were in prison, you learn a lot. You learn skills there, and when you serve your sentence, you can use the skills that you have learned during your imprisonment. So one way is to prepare you and to become to transform you into something different from where uh, different from before. Okay, so the community has twofold role. First, to participate in law enforcement activities by being partners of the peace officers in reporting the crime incident and helping in the arrest of offenders. Now, your rule will not end even you serve your sentence because everyone who is at the community will participate or obligatory to help the law enforcers. For example, every one of us who are not in prison or who are not in prison, or yes, we were not the same as those who served the sentence. But we have the obligation to participate. We need to report all those cases that all those we witness on the crime incurred. So the point here on number one is there is a participation of the community towards the law enforcement programs and activities. And the second one is to participate in the promotion of peace in order through crime prevention or deterrence and in rehabilitation on convicts and the integration to society. Now, aside from participation requires also cooperation. Cooperations that includes um, to maintain peace in order, to deter crimes, likewise to help to become a model of those who are about to commit crime or those who will be in prison. Because when you see, when you you are now transformed. For example, yung may iba dyan, meron yung iba dyan who becomes now a pastor. Okay? They can share and become a testimony of the feeling of the Spirit of God, who they become, who are now, or who are actually feel the joy of the Spirit of God that the world cannot provide. Okay, so become a witness. Okay, become also model that they have to make it sure themselves to make it sure na they will follow those policies and regulations and become also what do you call a good follower and shall participate and cooperate with the policies being enforced. There are components of community. First, home. Parental discipline. It is commonly thought of as means of development and maintenance of good behavior in accordance with the norms of society. Its main objective is to inculcate good habits, attitudes, and values that will make a child a law-abiding and useful member of the community. Take note of this. When your parents are disciplining you, doesn't mean that they don't love you. It means they love you, they care for you. That is what I'm also explaining to the parents when I called their parents to come into my office. And because the child says, I'm being scolded by my parents, it appears that they don't love me. I explained that they love you so much. They don't love you if they don't care about you, allowing you to do whatever you want to do, even it is against the word of law and even the word of God. Okay? So even the Bible says, or the word of God says, that children must be disciplined. So it's really important that while you are in home or while you are under the custody of your parents, the parents will have to um, inculcate discipline. Discipline is really essential, incumbent while a child is growing. Without this discipline, it's the child may grow or even may go, it may be diverted to a path which is actually not accepted by society. Some goes to a organized when join the organized groups, gangs, and so on and so forth. Some may take vices, but when discipline, for example, even this education, academic requirements for it to be accomplished, then the parents will have to make sure that their children will not often making use of cell phone, especially when they're playing Mobile Legends, because it may disrupt the children to do their obligation. Kaya napaka-importante itong parental discipline. And the ultimate objective of parental discipline is to develop the child self-respect, self-control, self-reliance, self-discipline, and not merely the ability and desire to conform to the accepted norms and standards for individual and community life in normal society. When we are under the discipline program, then you are blessed. Hindi yung pupunta ka na lang, magre-report ka. We are being abused. And when you even go and post it on social media, or even you report it to somewhere else, that you are being abused. Right now, the parents have the authority to exercise discipline, in even the law itself speaks, giving the parents the authority to instill discipline in such a way that will not put the life of the children at risk. Okay? Kami nga din, napapalo nun. But take note of what it benefits us. The reason why we were being uh, hit on the butt, because we made wrong. And it reminds us that it is wrong and we will never do it again. So even the law itself speaks that your teacher, your instructors are the second parents, but it would not be the same authority as your parents. It more on supervision. Okay, so for example, we are disciplining you how to read, then you are obliged to read. Okay, the school, the more education people have, the more they will respect and obey the law, the greater happiness and prosperity they will experience, and the stronger and better their government will become. However, one should not jump to the conclusion that formal education of itself bears an important relationship to delinquency. Okay, you have the right to be educated, and you are blessed right now that our education is free, especially when you enroll in a public school. Well, while during our time, we need to pay for our tuition fee for us to be uh, accepted and admitted. So not all may be admitted by reason that there are slots, and you have the slots and you have to treasure it. So you are here learning and likewise being instilled with discipline. How blessed when you have this face to face, because you will really learn a lot and you will really experience to become a student. So, especially taking criminology, it requires more discipline. Even I myself, I'm obliging my students here to open their cam during the discussion. When one is not cooperating or participating, they are being called. The attention is being called. And that time, yan, hindi na sila gumagawa kung ano-ano man. It really, school has essential role, or plays a vital role on the development of a child and development of a people, youth. Because when you graduated with discipline, with full of respect, that helps you to become successful, to become success. Likewise, you will also have a stable job to sustain your daily needs and even your family. Kaya napaka-importante ang pag-aaral. Tingnan nyo, there are some, I'm referring some, who are out of school youth. Take a look at them right now. Some of them are taking drugs, some of them are tambay, okay? ang alam nila magandang buhay tambay for some, because some who have the capability to sustain their daily needs. But how about those others? If you mapapanood nyo dun sa news, some are trying to taking all those belongings of the trucks, di ba? Nagnanakaw sila. Some are fighting each other kasi teritoryo ko to, itong group namin na ito, teritoryo namin. Some teritoryo nila yon, so once they cross the boundary, they fight each other. Diba? Walang pakialam kapag may nasasaktan, nadadamay. It's hard, and then afterwards, they will be put into the custody of the SWD. Some are in prison. Diba? Ang hirap. Okay, so napaka-importante yung pag-aaral. You have to make that fire, make your desire on fire. Okay, yung burning desire nyo shall always be on fire. Same as, okay, I'm taking up Juris Doctor right now. So it's really hard because our setup, you must have to learn because you have to open your cam all the time. Okay, and you have to read how many pages, 1,000 pages. Okay, our final examination, we need to read for the if I not mistake, the whole book of book 1, yung makapal na libro, how many pages? 1,400. Okay? See? Kasi the reason why we are taking this opportunity or I enrolled because of what benefit I can get. Okay? So napakasarap mag-aral. So yung burning desire nyo dapat hindi mawala. Next component is the component of community is the church. It is an acknowledged fact that the importance of the church in the prevention and control of crime is beyond compare. It is the church of any denomination which points out to the faithful their relationship to God and their fellow men, and who by work and example leads them to live a moral life. In short, spiritual yung kailangan. We have to live in spirit of God. Okay? So, napakaganda din when you attend the online service in amidst this pandemic, though we were not yet allowed to attend the church, the services, but online service can reach us and learn the Word of God. Napaka-importante. Even we have different religions, but the most important thing is we have the personal relationship with God. Because sabi nga ni Jesus sa John 14:6, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. Okay. Next is the government. The government is the duly constituted authority that enforces the law of the land, and such it is most powerful institution as far as control of the people is concerned. Respect for the government is influenced by the respect for the people running the government. The pattern of conduct set by the government official influences the conduct of the people in the community. You know, we are higher than the government. However, the constitution itself that we give the authority the government to control us or even um, to supervise us in such a way that we cannot defend ourselves or we cannot um, yes, we cannot defend ourselves all the time. That is why we let the government to do such obligatory to ensure everyone's safety. That is why we have also the peace in order ordinances. We have also those policies and even laws that will protect us and will protect our rights. So um, the government is actually um, help us to helps us because the government self, based on the constitution, the government ensures the well-being of a youth and even the everyone. Okay, so napakalaki na rin yung um, role ng gobyerno sa atin. Since we have the legislative which authorizing them to make such laws. And we are praying that all those laws will benefit the people. Okay? So may nabibito na bills. Okay? So not all bills will become laws. Okay? So lahat ng even those mga na discuss natin na all the programs are programs designed by the government. Okay? Next is the mass media and radio broadcasting. Mass media and radio broadcasting are considered the best instrument for information dissemination and the best source of knowledge for the public. It is where public opinion is formed, and that is where their influence lies. The term mass media used to refer to such impersonal means of communications as newspapers, magazines, comic book, radio, television, and motion pictures. But take note of this, it requires also intelligence when reading or hearing information from this social media or even social media, because there are actually um, what you call fake news na naipopost. Even remember, people will just say something just to become popular or to be recognized. But we have to use our discernment. Okay, you are criminology, then you must have to know first the basis of the information. You have to research, you have to confirm if those informations posted are accurate and these are not fake. Okay? Katulad na lamang yung biogesic. 'Di ba? Meron nang lumalabas na fake na medicines. Then you have to confirm it. Nagbebenta na sila kung may mura. 'Di ba? When you look at the brand, oh, it's fake. So just like also, tingnan nyo naman yung baka maraming marites dyan. Diba? So you need to look after those accuracy of the informations or the contents. You have to look after the substance of the information. Okay, so learning is the best tool also to help you from your ignorance. Diba? When you don't have, let's say for example, you don't, um, the sense of learning helps us to overcome ignorance. Okay. Next is we have the other community agencies that there are also even in what they call organized groups. Okay, youth groups that will help also the community to instill development programs or even programs that will help everyone to different programs. Okay, di ba? Ang dami-daming programs, different groups with different programs. Okay, so man compasses the nation, and in order for the nation to continue its existence, its constituents have to police themselves, set up rules and regulations for themselves, guide and educate the inhabitant because of the systematic. Now, there are also concerns groups or even agencies that will help everyone. For example, industries, for example, yung mga youth groups, okay? The plays vital role as well. And they are helping us, they are helping the government, they are helping everyone. Okay? So, napakaganda yung mga ganon na grupo. I'm not referring to those other groups na iba. Sasama ka lamang doon because you want to become famous among others, and even sabihin natin na kinatatakutan kasi marami kang kasama, okay? Hindi yon. I'm referring to these groups that will really give benefit to everyone. Okay? So, we have also here yung barangay. Ba? The barangay captains peacekeeping responsibilities and to act as auxiliaries of the law, being considered as persons in authority while the other barangay leaders are deemed as agents of person in authority. In effect, barangays to the respective barangay captains and other barangay leaders are involved in law enforcement tasks and also other aspects of criminal justice system. Kasi nga, they are actually auxiliary of the law enforcers, yung mga barangay tanods, barangay officials, in enforcing ordinances, enforcing laws. Now, because of their peacekeeping responsibilities, in the exercise of their limited statutory police power, it would be necessary that barangay captains, leaders, and members be motivated, organized, trained, coordinated, supervised, and even compensated. Remember, they are also undergoing trainings. And now, they also plays a vital role in ensuring the peace and maintenance of peace and order in the community. Now, even when there are some disputes, the law itself speaks that those disputes must be resolved first in the barangay before it will be elevated to the court. If the dispute will not be resolved in the barangay level, that's the time that it will be elevated to the court or for prosecution rather. Okay, so the barangay is governed with laws and those barangay personnel must conform to the enforcement of their duties and responsibilities. Now, ngayon, yung mga barangay tanod nagiging, I don't know kasi nagpapatayan sila because of that position. No. When we enter the barangay, public service and become a public servant, make it sure na you are not compromised. Okay? Wala yung self-interest or conflict of interest. But take of take note of the interest for the people. And we have the administrative justice versus criminal justice. So when we say administrative justice, or commonly administrative adjudication, it is the exercise by an administrative agency of judicial powers delegated to the agency by a legislative body. Agencies typically possess both legislative and judicial powers in their area of authority. The legislative power gives the agency the authority to issue regulations, while the judicial power gives the agency the authority to adjudicate contested cases within its area of jurisdiction. For example, in the PNP. They have also the administrative justice. Those who committed crime, aside from be criminally charged, they will be also administratively charged. Natatanggal sila sa serbisyo, or even some are suspended. Okay? So, in the PNP organization, the organization is authorized to set rules and policies. Thus, anyone who is found or anyone who violated that policy will be subject to administrative case. So administration of justice is essentially the same thing as criminal justice, except that administration of justice program focuses on preparing you for administrative positions in law enforcement, investigations, the public sector, and even the military. Now, bakit nagkaroon na it says that's the same as the administration of justice? Because criminal justice is the delivery of justice to those who have committed crimes, diba? And we have also criminal justice system that we have just discussed. So same thing. Ang pinagkaiba lang is in the administration of administrative justice, meron tayong it focuses more on administrative positions in different agencies. In even sa school, they have also the administrative justice. That whoever found guilty of a certain policy will be subjected for or will receive the repercussions or will subjected to consequences. Now, as its core, administrative justice is about ensuring that public bodies and those who exercise public functions make the right decisions. Ayan. We have the principles of administrative justice. It requires that tribunals be independent in matters of governance and that adjudicators be independent in decision making. Meaning, they have their own set of rules and policies, they have their own justice, then they will stick into that. The Supreme Court may only intervene when the systems becomes unconstitutional. Okay? Then it requires that tribunals, yung tribunals we are referring to their court, okay? Adjudicators who is serving as judge. And staff be impartial and free from improper influence and interference. Meaning, justice must be served, no bias. It must be with justice, okay? Free from any kinds of corruptions. Then it requires that tribunals, adjudicators, and staff be without conflicts of interest and act in a manner which precludes any conflict of interest. Yan yung sinasabi natin. It is kasi when it's subject for conflict of interest, kasi ayaw mo yung isang tao because wala kang makukuha sa kanya, those are conflict of interest. And those should be or this must be removed, okay, and excluded. Dapat matanggal yan sa sistema. And it requires that adjudicators and staff be qualified in their subject matter and administrative justice processes. Those learned, those who have the quality and competent to become adjudicators. Maya-maya lang naman, for example, I am not totally learned about that matter, or I do not have any idea about that matter, and I should not become one of the adjudicators or the decision maker. Okay? It must be those competent and qualified. Now, it requires the adjudicators and all participants treat each other with dignity, respect, and courtesy. Napaka-importante yan. Kasi they are still presumed to be innocent. Okay, so you must have to show respect. Likewise, the person who is under the what we call the trial must observe courtesy, respect, and um, must have the dignity. Then should ensure that the dispute resolution process is accessible, affordable, understandable, and proportionate to the abilities and sensibilities of users. Meaning, the system must be what do you call understandable, or both parties involved or the parties involved will understand the system and will understand the proceedings, and should be transparent and accountable. Dapat walang halong hidden agenda. It must be transparent, and whoever found made erroneous shall be accountable. Yung parang transparent, alam mo na kung sino ang may kasalanan anytime when there is error. Okay? Then should apply the rules of natural justice. Okay, yung common, they can also adapt the rules of evidence. Then should be expeditious both in the process and rendering decisions with reasons to be given where appropriate. For example, the presentation of evidence, allowing the person under trial to present and to explain himself or herself. Should, where possible, provide an opportunity for informal dispute resolution. Ibig sabihin, magkakaroon talaga ng trial muna or hearing. Then should minimize any disadvantages to unrepresented parties. For example, is uh, those should not be included shall be excluded. Kung ano yung dapat hindi maisama ay dapat huwag maisama during the trial. And should provide consistency in procedure and adjudicative outcomes. For example, there is already a system that it must be followed. Okay, it must be followed. Now, for the criminal justice, it is a generic term that refers to the laws, procedures, institutions, and policies at play before, during, and after the commission of a crime. As a modern concept, criminal justice expresses two central ideas. The first is that criminals and victims of crime have certain rights, while the second is the criminal conduct should be prosecuted and punished by the state following set laws. I will not explain further because these are already explained when we had explained those pillars of criminal justice system. To point out further, criminal justice is a interdisciplinary academic study of the police, criminal courts, correctional institutions, and juvenile justice agencies, as well as of the agents who cooperate with these institutions. So criminal justice is distinct from criminal law because the criminal law itself, we already defined this one, that it defines and it treats crimes. And a person who is found guilty thereof shall receive the penalty, imposable penalty. Now, we have this distinction between restorative justice and punitive justice. Punitive justice is the same as retributive justice. Let us find the distinctions. In retributive justice, crime is an act against a violation of a law, an abstract idea, while restorative justice, crime is an act against another person and community. So ano yung pinagkaiba nila dun sa both first row? Okay? The retributive justice defines crime, okay, which is against the state, while restorative is against the community in short. Okay? Because there are some acts that are not defined by the law but against the eyes of the community. Nakuha ba yan? For example, pumunta ka dun sa isang tribo, yung ginawa mo is not defined by the law. But since it is a customary law of the tribe, your act becomes not accepted. Okay? Next, retributive justice. The criminal justice system controls crime, while restorative justice, crime control lies primarily in the community. Okay? Then, offender accountability defined as taking punishment under retributive justice, while restorative justice accountability defined as assuming responsibility and taking action to repair harm. Okay? So, dito sa dalawa na ito, sa retributive will undergo punishment. While dito sa restorative justice, magkakaroon kayo ng pagbabalik or to bring back the friendship. Okay? You will going to restore. Okay? So, pag minsan, in some other tribe, you will just, when you made something wrong or you injured someone, you will have to pay one carabao. Okay? Kailangan lang talaga mapera ka din dito. For whatever they may request, you have that money to use it to provide what they are asking for. But not all. Okay. Then next, under retributive justice, crime is an individual act with individual responsibility, while restorative crime has both individual and social dimension of responsibility, by reason that it is against the community itself. Then retributive justice, punishment is effective. Traits of punishment deter crime, punishment changes behavior. It was also discussed dun sa discussion natin, which I just recently posted. And punishment alone is not effective in changing behavior and disruptive to community harmony and good relationship. By reason that nagkakaroon ng restoration niyo. Gaya ng sabi ko, you need, they are asking you to pay one carabao. Okay? So it's not effective actually. How about it would become unfair? How about those rich person or who has the capacity to pay and they may again commit another crime and they will just to pay, di ba? Hindi siya effective. Next is retributive justice. Victims are peripheral to the process, while restorative is victims are central to the process of resolving a crime. Yung victims are peripheral on to the process, meron tayong court who will give justice for those victims, while restorative just um, asking the victim if they may forgive, asking the victims if they may forgive those offenders. Okay. Then, under retributive justice, the offender is defined by deficits, while restorative is the offender is defined by capacity to make reparation. Yung offender will have is defined by the law, thus must be punished accordingly. Dito sa restorative is you made such wrong and may be restored depending on the uh, system. Okay, next is focus on establishing blame or guilt on the past, while restorative focus on the problem solving on the liabilities, obligations on the future, what should be done. And then, emphasis on adversarial relationship dito sa retributive, while dito sa restorative, emphasis on dialogue and negotiation. More on restoring. Yung parang restoring friendship. When friendship is broken, then it will be restored. Okay? Pag andito yung mga matatanda, pag-uusapan, how to bring back your relationship. Then, ganun lang yung pinagkaiba. Retributive, tignan nyo po. Imposition of pain to punish and deter prevent. Community on sideline, represented abstractly by state. Response focus on offenders' past behavior. Dependence upon proxy professional. Pero sa restorative, restitution as means of restoring both parties. Goal of reconciliation, restoration. Community as facilitator is restorative process. Response focus on harmful consequences of offenders' behavior. Emphasis is on the future, direct involvement by the participants. So, sa restorative is more on restoration. Okay? Yan. Then we have the military justice system. It is the system for enforcing the system for enforcing the discipline in administering criminal law in the armed forces kasi mayroon tayong court martials. So, in respect to court martials, any military officer who thereby violated crimes while enforcing their duties shall be subject to court martials. Kaya mayroon napapakulong or napapatanggal na rin sa serbisyo. And the court martial may sometimes adopt the rules of evidence, but they have also their own sets of rules on prosecution, rules on their adjudication. This is a good example of administrative justice. So, gaya ng sabi ko, meron tayong agencies through which military jurisdiction is exercised, yung court martial. And we have also the commanding officers exercising disciplinary powers under AW 105 and courts of inquiry, other military tribunals, yung OTIG, OISPA, TPMG. Okay? So, just try to search on this one. Okay, but more on common trial is the court martial. So we have the components of the military justice. The administration of justice in the Philippines follows four components. Investigation. Okay, so same as the what we had learned, and they will have also the prosecution, then trial or adjudications. Okay, allowing both parties to explain themselves. The allowing the party who is accused or respondent who will explain themselves, and both are given also the opportunity to present evidence. And right then on, they will have the judgment or decision, okay, whether guilty or not, suspended or not, and be removed from the service or from the cadet, okay, being a cadet. Now, punitive are those that define offense and describe punishment. Punitive in nature. Ibig sabihin, ito yung mga defined by their policy as crime or offense, which ever found guilty shall receive punishment. Pero yung non-punitive, ito lang yung mga sanctions. Okay? Or sometimes they will be only given warning, they will be only given memorandum, but they will not be subject to punishment. Okay? Then we have also the indigenous justice system. So there were and are aboriginal laws. There were and continue to be aboriginal governments with lawmaking powers and with provisions to enforce those laws. There were our aboriginal constitutions that are the supreme laws of laws for some aboriginal peoples in the nations. Yung aboriginal peoples have always have governments, laws, and some means of resolving disputes within their communities. Doon nga sa North American Aboriginal societies were dynamic cultures that adapted constantly to meet changing circumstances. So, Aboriginal people were influenced by their relations with one another in migrations, warfare, conquest, and in commercial and or political unions. So, to point out, yung indigenous justice system, gaya ng sabi ko, there is also a good example here is in the Kalinga, which they have the Budong system. They have also indigenous justice system. They have also a kind of indigenous justice system out there. So, sa Pilipinas kasi tayo yung pinakamaraming tribo. And they have their own sets of policies when making such adjudications when their customary laws were violated by someone. Some examples of such indigenous governments in their laws exist around the world. In the United States, tribal governments have long been recognized by U.S. courts as domestic dependent nations with the inherent power to enact such laws as they deem necessary. We have described how these laws are interpreted and enforced in our chapter on Aboriginal justice system. Under Aboriginal justice systems rather. Okay, so remember, we are referring to the society. Dito sa Pilipinas pa lang meron tayong yung sinasabi ko budong system in Kalinga. Okay? It is a form of restorative justice in Mountain Province. They have also their justice system. I have my classmate. Nagkaroon siya ng yan. Kaya sabi ko, in different tribes or even society, meron silang policies na rin. Those are common laws. Those are unwritten laws. Okay? Gaya ng sabi ko, it becomes crimes on their eyes or becomes social misfits, unacceptable behavior, unacceptable acts when it violates their customary laws. Okay? Ganun lang kasimple yun. Ibig sabihin, every society, not only every society, in some society, they have their own customary laws. Okay? Gaya ng sabi ko, I have my classmate who committed a crime. Actually, that is a crime. But he was not prosecuted nor uh, put in behind bars or even put trial. But these tribes asked him to pay Carabao. I don't know how many Carabaos they ask, and so pagkabigay ng Carabao, absuelto na siya. Okay? Yan. Depende yan kung saang lugar ka gumawa ng krimen. Okay? So, Republic Act 8371, the Indigenous People Rights Act of 1997, mayroon tayo dito. Indigenous cultural communities or indigenous peoples refer to a group of people or homogeneous societies identified by the self ascription and ascription by others, who have continuously lived as organized community on communally bounded and defined authority. Okay, so it is a definition of indigenous cultural communities. So are you also indigent? Me, I am also indigent. Your head is also indigent. Your instructors are also belong to indigenous group. I'm Ibaloy tribe, Kangkanay tribe, yan. Iba-iba yung aming mga tribe. Okay? So we have also sets of policies. We have also different cultures, which is different from their cultures. We have also different traditions that different yung kanilang mga traditions. Okay? So languages, iba rin yung languages nila sa languages namin, but the common languages is Ilocano. Or mother tongue namin is English and Ilocano. And we have also different as to the political view. Well, of course, magkakaiba talaga. And yung bonding namin, yan, nagkakaroon naman ng common bonding. Okay? When we say Ibaloy or Igorot, yan, magkakasama ng mga yan. Okay? So, indigenous political structures refer to organizational and cultural leadership systems, institutions, relationships, patterns, and process for decision making and participation. Kaya iba-iba rin po yung setup nila. Depende doon sa ninuno namin eh. Doon sa ninuno nila, ganyan. Ninuno namin, ganito. Ninuno ng iba. Sa different tribes, they have their own policies. At nagsiset yan ay yung mga ninuno namin. Those ancestors. And being adapted by those next generation, or the generation, or the current generation. Okay? So, sila nagsiset yan. So, we have this, iba-iba yung mga aming structure. There is no formal structures, but it's, for example, when you get married to an Igorot, okay, dapat you need to follow. Kailangan mong pumunta kay Lola, kay Lolo, mag-uusap-usap muna, ganon. Until such time, they will set now yung kasal nyo. Okay? Ganon yung setup. So we have the justice system, conflict resolution institutions, and peace building processes. The ICCs, or the indigenous peoples, shall have the right to use their own commonly accepted justice system, conflict resolution institution, peace building processes or mechanisms, and other customary laws and practices within their respective communities, and as may be compatible with the national legal system and with international recognized human rights. Okay, a good example, gaya ng sabi ko, di ba? Yung it is already adapted that instead that you will prosecute the person, yung classmate ko, they only oblige him to pay carabaos. Another also is uh For example, di ba, we have the law that yung Animal Welfare Act. However, in sometimes it is the customs yung pagpakatay ng mga hayop. For example, yung aso. In some tribe, it is already the customs, okay, exemptional doon sa Animal Welfare Act. Okay, pero in those who are not indigent, whoever na nagkatay ng aso, shall be liable under the Animal Welfare Act. But those who are indigent, but then justification that it requires so in their rituals, for example, or in their customs, traditions, shall be exempted from that Animal Welfare Act. So, may policy sila, it is now being respected. Okay? Then, right to participate in decision making, all levels of decision making in matters which may affect their rights, lives, destinies through procedures determined by them, as well as to maintain and develop their own indigenous political structures. Okay, so yan. Decision making it requires actually participation. Okay? Magkakaroon yan ng mga uh, systems, hindi mawawala yan, yung mga sistema or yung setup nila, yung customary laws nila, or even traditions or custom laws. Then, right to determine and decide priorities for development. Okay? Have the right to determine and decide their own priorities for development. Kaya, the Constitution itself also giving the social development of those indigenous. Okay? They shall participate in the formulation of implementation and evaluation of policies, plans, and programs for national, regional, and local development which may directly affect them. Kasi they are affected. If they will not participate in such ordinance or such laws, will prejudice them or will actually discriminate them. Or, for example, it will not favor them. It becomes unjust, unconstitutional. And unconstitutional in such a way that it affects their customs. Yung the Constitution itself, sabi niya nga, social development for the indigenous people. Okay, so they must have to participate and cooperate sa mga policies, plans, and programs, regionals, nationals, and even local development. And we have the tribal barangays, the ICCs or the IPs or the indigenous peoples living in contiguous areas or communities where they form the predominant population but which are located in municipalities, provinces, or cities where they do not constitute the majority of the population may form or constitute a separate barangay in accordance with the local government code on the creation of tribal barangays. Okay, so a good example yung sabi ko, Budong justice system. Though they have barangay, but they have also Budong justice system. You may want to search it in Kalinga. Okay, ayan. So let me also, okay. So here are my announcements pertaining on the Miss quizzes and midterm examination. You will be given a date for you to be given a chance to take the said quizzes and examination. So you need to prioritize on that date. So pag na-miss you yung chance na yun, you will not take any longer the quizzes and examination. To those who are working, then you have to do something, okay, to take these quizzes and examination. Remember, ikaw ang naghahabol. What I mean is, you have to give priority on your study for this time because you miss something and you must have to take the opportunity given by your instructor. And your final examination, I will ask, the date of your final examination, I will ask the representative of each section, yung common na gusto nyong preferred date, kung kailan yung examination niyo. So, what is the coverage of your examination? is more on final. I may only ask 5% of your midterm, but the rest is your final discussion. So if I'm not mistaken, we started from the prosecution for our final discussion. So including lahat kasi my setup supposedly is from cover to cover ako. That is my style. But giving you the leeway, okay, we will now focus more on final discussions. Again, I may only ask 5% of your midterm, and the rest is 95% for your final examination. Okay, so God bless to your examination. And yung pinost ko na recently, aside this video recorded, is actually enhances our discussion. And again, a supplementary also of your discussion in Introduction to Criminology, which I really believe that it was these topics were already discussed. Okay, yung correction niyo. Okay, so God bless to your examination. Stay healthy kasi ang hirap even me is because of my sickness. It's delayed me in the discussion. So again, thank you so much and God bless to everyone.